This is Victoria Resto with Eagle News. To select stories, which you can do anywhere, especially on a college campus, you need to decide what the story is about before you start writing. The reason for this is determining the newsworthiness of the story. Stories are picked by newsrooms. Stories are picked by who the newsroom believes viewers and listeners are most likely to watch or listen to. Longer and more complex stories are harder for television and radio because they take longer to tell and they're harder for viewers and listeners to follow. Other stories may not get picked because they're less entertaining and wouldn't be as good for television or radio. It's important to decide exactly what the story is about first and foremost to determine if it's worth being put in a newscast. So that's why you should decide what the story is about before you even start writing. The 6 main questions that you have to ask yourself about newsworthiness before deciding to pick a story. Where does the story take place, and is it relevant to where your newscast is? Is the story timely, and will a live story be possible? So those are usually more entertaining for viewers and listeners. Will the story have an impact on a large number of people? Because if a story impacts a larger number of people, it's more likely to get picked. Is the story about a prominent person? Prominent people are usually easier for people to recognize and want to follow. Is there conflict in the story? Because this makes for good video and good scripts. And is the story too complex? You want to keep the stories as simple as possible for television and radio versus print news. News philosophy and the role that it plays in story selection is basically news philosophy is a set of values that each station has that helps them pick certain stories over other types of stories. This is important because if there wasn't a news philosophy, all news stations would be creating the same kind of stories and picking the same kind of stories. They would all be covering car crashes and robberies. So there's usually a news philosophy in every news station to help them decide which story fits their station more, and that helps them pick between a multitude of stories. In this chapter, I learned a lot about picking stories based off of not only their newsworthiness, but their news philosophy. So depending on what news station you work for, you might have a story that's better for your station versus for another station. And using newsworthiness helps you pick a story based on how important it is for the public to see it.